Hello.
Welcome back to the Bible Study Girl podcast. I am Sarita. You may know me as Bible Study Girl. And the first voice, not verse, but he is a lyricist, so maybe that's why that came to mind. But the first voice that you heard was the executive producer of this podcast, my baby brother, Bible Study Brother.
It is I, Bible Study Brother, but I'm also known as Icarus Gray over at Gray Area Anime. But this is the most wonderful podcast of your day. Go listen to, or the album Gray Matter is coming out May 14th. But go and listen to all the singles that are out. Just search Icarus Gray on wherever you get your music. I promise you I'm there.
And we're so glad that you're there, brother. Welcome, guys, to another edition of our blog recap. If you've never listened before, then our blog recap is just a series where we go back on BibleStudyGirl.com and we talk about blogs that were written way back in yesteryear. We're pulling those blogs up to the front and we're talking about their current application in our lives. Blog is entitled Cover Me. So the way this works is Bible Study Brother does a recap of what he thought about the blog in general and what he thought when he read the blog. And then I jump in and let you guys know how I felt at the time that I wrote the blog and just how I feel present day. Sometimes that's changed. Most of the time it really hasn't. So it's always interesting for me to go back in time and see what I was talking about back then. So today's blog Cover Me was written 4 years ago. And if you want to read the blog, because you don't know what we're talking about, you can head over to BibleStudyGirl.com. You can tap on the magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner and type in the word Cover Me. It will take you to the blog instantly so you can read it and come up with your own thoughts of how the blog makes you feel, what it makes you think about. Maybe it pulls up some stuff in you and challenges you to do things in a different way. I don't know, but I would love to hear from you and to see what you think when you personally read the blog. So I'm going to stop talking and chitter-chattering and let my baby brother have the floor.
If you guys would also like to see our faces, make sure you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel where there is a bit different content up there that you will love and enjoy. Currently, you'll be able to see basically a small chronicling of our trip up to moving me to Tacoma, which I know you guys will enjoy.
Let me tell you, you won't just enjoy it. You will laugh. You will laugh. If you are having a bad day, for real, y'all, go to YouTube. Watch our trip. We did a whole much different to see it in person, to see it for yourself. I'm telling you, you will enjoy. You will enjoy it. Okay, brother. I'm gonna let you have the floor. But it's great. Like, I laugh when I watch it because it's funny.
I laugh every time. But this is another sermon recap, basically. And in the Noah series, if you listen to our last episode, which was Coming Out Better, this is kind of a companion piece. Cover Me, like kind of about the when you come out better, how things can kind of happen, you know.
Did you recognize the picture from this blog?
I mean, currently it's just a picture from our mother's 50th birthday party.
Oh, so you do recognize the picture. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
You get it? Cover Me. We covered her?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, go ahead.
I did. That's a whole nother story, which I hope we get to talk about her one day, because that was, whew, boy.
You want to talk about her 50th birthday celebration?
Yeah, because we worked, bruh. That was some work.
I'd rather not. It was a lot of intense work, but we'll see.
But anyway, so basically, After the flood, Noah's family has been able to settle down. It's been some time since the flood, which is noted here by our lovely BSG, because Noah done grew grapes, done got a vineyard going, and done had a harvest and done had some wine. And he had a little bit more wine than, what is kind of acceptable. He drunk. Let's just call it like a spade and just put it out there. He got so drunk, he got hot and got up out his clothes and passed out. His son Ham comes in, sees him naked, and is like, "Oh!" He doesn't like immediately like cover him up. He leaves out and goes and talks to his brothers. And his brothers, because they like, I want to, like, that's not something I need to be seeing is my father's nakedness, but we need to cover him up. Backwards, and get a cover over his body backwards or whatever, which is hilarious to me in so many different ways. It's just because imagining this and how they were doing it is kind of funny, but also the reason they did it is, you just don't want your nakedness out there. It's something that was not like this. I'm not appreciative of my body or whatever the world's logic is on nudity or whatever. It was more like, you don't need to be this way. Also, I'm not rushing in here to see you like this. I'm just rushing in here to cover you in a way that you need to be covered. And what BSG does is she takes that and then basically talks about how quick we are to shame someone in their nakedness and their vulnerabilities and their in their worst moments. And I know it's a quick hit because I'm real defensive. That's kind of how I grew up, because whether it was getting talked about for having glasses and being called four eyes, all this other stuff that used to get on my nerves just as a youth. When it came to like being able to speak my mind to certain people or whatever the case may be, or if somebody else was on a certain path in front of me to where we could have words about it, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not gonna come in and help you from it always. I'm just gonna be quick with the shame aspect because of whatever shames or insecurities or whatever it is that I felt at the time. And dog, I just feel convicted, man, because there are so often, so many times where you see somebody struggling, you see somebody vulnerable and just opening, you like, wouldn't be me, couldn't have been me, or instead of just going in to actually help that person that is hurting, that
Right.
made a mistake, that didn't intend to be here, didn't intend to be in the position that they found themselves in. And I chastise myself for a couple of reasons. One, because I continuously say on here, I know how people view the church. I know how people, and I'm about to sneeze, so if you can pick up for just a second.
Okay. Um, you talking about how people view the church. I have had a lot of conversations lately with people about how the church is viewed. And I think my stance is that, the church as a whole has taken a lot of hit with the way that we treat people. But I think the thing that is most important for the church is for us to be accountable for our own individual actions, right?
Yes.
Because the people are the church, not the building.
Yes.
And as the church body, we have the responsibility, talk about it all the time on here and in the blog, but we have the responsibility to be the hands and feet of Christ. So it's not just about us going to church on Sundays and hearing the word, but it's about really applying it and realizing that we need to be gracious. We need to reach out to people. That's our responsibility.
Yes.
That's our personal call to action. I'm gonna let you take back up if you wanna.
Mm. But yeah, let's pick people up. Let's help people. It's not about, a lot of times we start to politicize helping people. helping somebody is not always an agreement in a lifestyle or whatever it is that you have an issue with. It's helping people because it rains on the just as well as the unjust. You know,
It does. And I think the thing, I know we're in your section, but I think the thing that always rings true to me is you don't know where you'll be 3 years from now, 4 years from now.
hmm
You don't know what you'll be doing. You don't know how life will line up to, what I would never. And you know,
yeah,
and when you're in that situation, you want people to be compassionate. And I'm not necessarily talking about, um, we talk a lot on the show about boundaries. So I'm not saying that you allow people to use you. I think God gives us discernment and He gives us wisdom. But I am talking about not being so harsh and judgmental.
yeah, and that's why I made sure to try and clarify there about helping people has been so politicized. There's so many different instances where you probably have an opportunity to change somebody's life or allow them to see God, but you don't help them because you don't agree with whatever decisions that they made. Um, there are women who have had abortions who try to go to the church and have somebody to talk to, and because you disagree with the mistake that they probably at that point are feeling like they made or whatever instance that they were dealing with, they now feel alienated from a God who wouldn't alienate them in this situation, who cares for them through all of their situations. Um, the world is very quick to feign an acceptance that is not warm. It's just, it is what it is.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't have a depth that the Holy Spirit has when you're trying to give that to people. Um, and so being more mindful of the nakedness of the vulnerability that people are dealing with in so many different situations, man. Like if you look at the numbers of molestations, if you look at the number of divorce, if you look at the number of all of these different instances of whatever's going on in the world, there are more people who have gone through things that they feel embarrassed about, that they
Right.
need love from, that you just can't go and make fun of, or you shouldn't go and disrespect this situation and all of these things. And because that there's an outpouring or an external view of what's internal. There's so many
Right.
external actions to all of those things that I just mentioned, that if you're not being kind and trying to cover those people up and tell them that they are still loved and tell them that they are still wanted and that God still cares for them, that's why you're getting those external actions.
Let me
Because,
give
yeah.
let me give you this perfect example from my life. And I mean, for other people, it may not be. This is my story and this is my truth. So I talked about in Vow Renewal, if you go back and listen to that podcast, just how embarrassed I was and like how much shame I felt. You talking about somebody that feels naked and vulnerable. That was me. I just felt like not the best version of myself. And the fact that their relationship caused so much turmoil within my family, with my relationship with Tamika. But this is how I know she loved the Lord. She was the perfect example of somebody covering me. Like when I told her I wasn't getting married, now Tamika was very opinionated. She spoke her mind. She reacted in a way I did not expect. And that's what I'm saying. That's how I know she loved the Lord. She didn't ask me what happened. She wasn't like, I told you he was a no good piece of trash. Her response to me was like, I'm here for you and you just let me know whatever you need. Like, and that was it. That was a perfect example of covering me. And anybody that knows her knows she could very much be like, that's stupid. That was one of her favorites.
hmm
One of her favorites. But in that instance, she chose to just cover me. Now she may have said all those things to somebody else, but she didn't say them to me. because at that moment I was very vulnerable and she chose
Hmm.
to exercise. Let me get this fool some grace. I'll talk about her with the people, but I'm going to personally give her some grace. And so I don't think it has to be and it's hard for her because like I said, that's stupid.
Hmm. And
Listen.
and I mean, even in the fact that we did not allow you to just go into, well, I feel embarrassed. Now I'm just gonna go into my embarrassment corner and stay there. It's like,
Yeah, that was the
no.
thing too. Y'all extended grace. It was she was not the only person that felt like it was a stupid decision and like it wasn't the right thing. You and mama, I know you didn't think it was the right thing, and mama didn't think it was the right thing, but she knew that I was determined, and so
Oh
she
yeah.
didn't want to like she didn't want to butt heads with me. And for her, our relationship was more important than like, you know, isolating herself from me. So I'm grateful for y'all in the way that y'all chose to cover me as well.
I was just gonna say, like, there's so many different ways of going in and covering people. Because, like I said, to me, covered you in a way of you were bracing yourself for it. That's stupid.
Oh, baby, I was ready for all the smoke because I was standing 10 toes down. She was standing 10 toes down. And so I was ready for whatever people had for me. And I'm grateful for everybody's reaction. Like, girl, we got you. Like, we gonna cover you.
That
You just
wasn't
lay
it.
over there naked and we gonna bag you.
Yeah, that wasn't it. Like that. That wasn't. And we had this conversation off air, so I mean, it's not something we ever gonna have off air, but on air. Excuse me. But we like after revisiting our biggest fight and our those blog posts, which y'all should listen to. Like they gonna
I
sound
feel
real. Like we don't.
tense.
They gonna sound
You
real
can
tense. I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
Yeah, you can feel the tension in the podcast because it's real, like it's not fake. So
No.
go listen to them.
Um, but that was our first time really talking about those things, and we had to talk off air because we were kind of talking around a lot of different things at the time. And
We were talking around different things at the time on air that we needed to talk about
yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
And it was not an appropriate conversation for the world, but it was a very appropriate conversation for us.
And a lot of what I learned in that conversation is we were not covering one another in our whatever was going on.
Oh, not at all. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict came from
Yeah.
because we weren't covering each
And
other.
that's what I was, and that's all I was saying. I was like, "Yo, this is not this. This is not this, and that ain't that. Like, this is what I was looking for. This is what I was, trying to." And you were like, "Well, this is what." And because we went through and did these things or thought about these things, I said I did exactly with you what I wanted, which was like I wasn't riding. He who shall not be named. I wasn't there for it. I wasn't here for it. But I also knew that what you needed was not somebody coming at you telling you that this is stupid. Because the more if somebody came to you with that energy, we rebel. We're gonna feel more emboldened. It's the kind of a plight as a Christian sometimes because you're gonna be persecuted. Sometimes you feel like all persecution is just you doing the right thing, and sometimes it's red flags to you don't need to be doing this, but you
Yeah.
see it as persecution because you want to be justified in doing wrong or doing what you're doing or whatever, and covering you because you needed to know no matter what that people care. Like it's not gonna net you the immediate response every time that you think you should be getting for covering somebody or standing by somebody. And you do have to be very prayerful and discerning about what boundaries you need to set in regards to that.
Very
Um,
true.
but at the same time, you being consistent is what God is. God is everly or always consistent and be that kind of example of covering and helping people during their darkest moments. Cause you really never know what the cause of it is, what the other side of it is, what your involvement in terms of your, like, there's a way to set up a boundary without being disrespectful to somebody. There's a
Absolutely.
way to, yeah. Well, go ahead.
And I talk all the time about, like, so okay, what does cover me mean practically? And I gave you a practical example. My cousin didn't go with her tried and true. That's stupid. She chose to use kind words. Of course, we did get to a point where we talked about, what happened and, all those kinds of things. But right at that moment and right at that time was not the time. Not while I'm laying here naked to hit me with the 1-2 punch and laugh at me or whatever. I think it's in. So it could be prayer, right? Because
Right.
Christians, we gonna pray about it. Yeah, you need to pray, but quite often there are other things that you really literally need to do other than pray, to help somebody when they're in that weak moment, when they're feeling vulnerable and feeling out of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of clarify those things, and I'm pretty much done with like what I was feeling from it, because it's just what you kind of need, and what we need as people is to be more kind in those situations. And like, is it hard to kind of balance all of the different things that you have to do in regards to helping somebody? Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's, as I try to cover my bases with saying like, well, be discerning about this. I'm not telling you can't set up boundaries, and it gets so convoluted. But like, the simplest part of it is when you see somebody in need, help.
Try to meet that need. If
You
you
know,
have the ability, try to
like,
meet that need.
it's not always a financial thing. Some days it's just telling somebody, hey, you look nice. Like
Absolutely.
they might have the the saddest look on their face, but you notice them in a compliment, or hey, I'm praying for you, or hey, would you want to talk?
Or you hear somebody talking about a financial need they have, and you can meet that need, and you feel led by the Spirit to meet that need, not out of like, and not in a way that's like, hey guys, unless the Lord tells you to, hey guys, let's rally together and get this for Susie, knowing you have everything. You can give it to Susie. It doesn't have to be a public display. You don't have to put it on Facebook, and you just give it to Susie and move on with life. You're covering her, meeting her need, and not shaming her. I think that's my thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
quite often, especially in a social media society, it is so easy to shame people when they miss the mark or when they don't do things the right way, or the way you think they should do it. It's easy to hit people when they're down, especially because you can do it from your home. But
Mm-hmm.
like, you don't have to do it in people's faces. You know what I'm saying? So it's so easy to fall into that trap and to forget that people are really people and people are really hurting, and that you have, a responsibility to be, a help and to cover people and to like really help them, not just lip service, but actually do things that are helping people.
But yeah, like, this was one of the easier blogs to kind of break down, and I hope y'all appreciate when we concise. Cause Lord knows it'd be hard for me, cause God, I just be feeling the spirit and I just go wherever it takes me. But today, be kind to somebody. There are so many ways, different ways to do that. Understand that like, nobody likes to feel embarrassed. Nobody likes to feel shame, and they don't have to.
And let me add, here's the thing. I think that, and I'm not talking about, I do need to be very clear about that. Like, this was not my first time dealing with this man. This was not my first time having this experience with this man. So I think that is why the shame was so compounded for me, because he had a pattern of being this person. This is nothing new. And it would have been very easy for my family and friends to say, you a fool, you knew this would happen. And so that's why I'm saying you really do need to be prayerful and use your discernment.
Listen,
When you're dealing with somebody, it's not always about the number of times that they've been in this cycle. Um, I don't know, just use your discernment, man. I thank God that I have friends and family that were, I feel they minister to me, they cover me in the way that I needed at that time, because I was down bad. When I say I was down bad, down bad. And I think it's just because it was so shameful, because it wasn't a surprise. Nobody was surprised.
I was.
I was.
I was surprised. I mean,
You were.
I too was bamboozled. If you remember,
You were.
do you not remember? Like we had a moment. I was like, there's some changes.
Right. He's
Like
reformed.
there didn't have to
Okay. So,
there didn't have to be this. I mean, now granted, did I still think it was a bad idea? Yes, but there was these moments where I'm like, this benefits you not at all to do this.
right.
Like to be this in the middle of this, it benefits you not at all. Like I remember calling you and just being like, man, I almost got choked up because I was not expecting this. And like it's so easy in whatever your situation is to be bamboozled or to be naive, no matter how street smart you are, how much common sense. Like we mess with our mama all the time. But again, we've been bamboozled, hoodwinked, and Plymouth Rock fell on us. Like, so just remember that and be kind to the fact that it's not so often just about the fact that it can be you too, but the fact that you have also empathized to feel shame or embarrassment, at some point you understand that feeling. It doesn't matter if you are a child who wet the bed. It doesn't matter. Like, what that feeling is like. So just, be more kind, y'all. Be more kind.
Be kind. Be kind. Just like Noah's two kids. Don't go and spread the word about somebody else's downfall. Take action and cover that person, and however you need to cover them. It has definitely blessed my life, and I'm grateful that I have friends and family and a community that supports me and loves me and is willing to stick with me through the hard times. They pray for me, they provide godly counsel. Um, and not just when it comes to relationships at any point, and not just when it comes to romantic relationships, but with anything that I'm struggling with, that causes me embarrassment. My finances, like, I have a great financial advisor who I had to be vulnerable with and show, like, this is what's going on. I need your help. And they didn't shame me. They talked with me and walked me through, this is how you can make changes. It's not too late. You can live a good life, sis, and this is how you get there. So even something as simple as that, like, and it's not simple, but just being, if anybody is vulnerable and you see that vulnerability and you call yourself a Christian and you love the Lord, you have a responsibility to cover them. And so I'm done with all of my vulnerability for
Listen, no,
today.
it's okay.
I'm
You can
covering
be
myself.
open. Not only are you covering yourself, we got y'all covered over at BibleStudyGirl.com because it's blog posts every day. Look, Man, y'all got to go check them out. You got to go read. You got to get caught up with us. You got to read along with us during these blog posts. If you want to hit us up on social media, on Instagram, it's _ Bible Study Girl. On Twitter, it's Bible Study Girl, the number 2. Facebook, look us up, Bible Study Girl. Like that page, follow the page. You can message us there, but you can also hit us up at our email at BibleStudyGirl2019@gmail.com, where you can send us prayer requests or guest if you want to be a guest and talk about your walk with Jesus. We never disclose any of the prayer requests that are given to us in the emails, because that is just us going and praying for you and your personal, you just needing somebody to pray for you. That's not for public consumption unless that's something that you specify, but otherwise it's not for public consumption. So go there. Check us out on all those platforms. If you want to see our faces, the YouTube is down in the description. Make sure you click that. Let's get to 100 subscribers, so that way we can make it even easier, and that way I'll be able to add it to this end spiel. And
you will also love to. You want to see this trip? You do.
I was gonna say,
I'm telling you.
currently up there right now is our trip to Tacoma. And you're gonna love it. It's fun.
It's Bible Study Brothers' cross country move. It's his move of faith. You want to see it? It's hilarious.
Yeah. And there's some moments in there. It's a vertical shot thing, because my sister is not. She did not know about horizontal viewing, or that we'd ever even use this footage.
I know I would be using the footage for a YouTube channel. It was for my personal amusement and our first personal family records, okay? It was for me and the family.
But thanks to my lovely editing, had to add in a little sound at the beginning. You guys are really going to enjoy it. And remember, guys, it is not wallowing in the sin that preaches, but we preach.
And until we meet again, guys, keep preaching.